Welcome. Thank you for coming this evening. We're excited to share some of the things that we want you to know about our district. Just some real quick introductions. My name is Todd Sauer. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the principal here at Lowell School. Lane Larson, our superintendent. And Aaron Sinclair, our assistant superintendent. And the three of us will be sharing the information tonight. I would also like to acknowledge Bob Nystrom, one of our school board members. Thank you, Bob. And we really look forward to making this interactive so that you get your questions answered, that we can kind of give you our thoughts on that and really move this forward so people have a strong understanding of what's happening.
Thank you, Todd. This is just heartwarming to me when I look out into the audience tonight and I see so many people that are here tonight to hear about the message regarding our comprehensive facilities. And we're just excited to tell you about the plan that has been developed, that has been worked on for about somewhere between 3.5 and 4 years. And in December, the Board of Education approved what we believe is the perfect plan for the district. And so we are so excited tonight to talk with you about that plan and to talk how it affects Lowell, and specifically since we're at Lowell tonight. So we are happy to have everyone here, and I want to tell you just a little bit about our agenda. We're going to do 4 basic things this evening. First of all, we're going to give you a very, very brief interview or introduction to the process. Like I said, it's 3.5 years of work, and we're going to put it into about 3 minutes, talking about what the process is as to how we got here. The second thing that we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about the plan. Like I shared a minute ago, we feel that after the 3.5 years that the plan that is being addressed tonight and talking is really a plan that's going to meet the needs that we have for our students, for our staff, for our community, and for everyone involved in our school district. The third phase, and Aaron is going to take you through the second phase of this. The third phase is the finances themselves. And I'm going to come back at that time and share with you the funding strategy that we have in place that we believe is the best plan as far as addressing the many needs that we have in our district. And then following that, we'll talk a little bit about the election process. So let me just go through a little bit and just give you that brief overview of what the process has been. When I came here 1.5 years ago, I felt so fortunate because so much work had been done for 2 years prior to my arrival. The Board of Education had worked alongside with many consultants. They had worked along with our administrative team, our teachers, everyone within our district to look at every single building within our district, from the basements of our buildings all the way to the rooftops. And when I came a year ago in July, the board said, okay, now we've got all this information and we've got it into a folder. What do we do with this, and how do we get to the point that we bring it forward to the voters and let them make a decision on if they believe this is the right plan for the district? And so when we all met, and the administrative team, the Board of Education, all of us met together, we said any good lesson always starts with knowing what your end game is. What is the ultimate goal that you have? And so the first thing that we did is we identified what the goal of our project was. And that was to provide facilities that promoted opportunity, innovation, and success for all learners in our district. From birth all the way through life, how are we meeting the academic, the arts, the activities, and the athletic needs of all of our learners? So we went through a huge process, and I'm going to take you down our road that we did. The Board of Education, one of the things that I think was really wonderful that we learned in this process is the Board of Education approved 2 different surveys to survey our public and find out what the public thought about our school district, what its strengths were, what some of the concerns that they had moving forward. The first survey that was completed was an online survey through the school district website. And it was really interesting because we thought we had 200 people that would answer that survey. And when we were completed with that 1-week survey, over 1,300 people had gone to the website to give us information about our district and what they believed the information was that we needed to hear. Along with that, and really parallel to that, the Board of Education approved a scientific survey where a company out of the cities called 400 homes, residents from our school district, to ask them 87 or 88 questions about the district, ranging from the strengths to the concerns again. What was really interesting about this survey, in parallel with the first survey, is that we got very similar results. Some of the things that we believe are the key points through these surveys, though, and that we're most proud of, is that when we surveyed our public, they told us that they absolutely believed that the children that left our school district and that graduated from our school district were given the best educational opportunity possible. They told us overwhelmingly that they felt that we had the greatest teachers and practitioners and paraprofessionals and staff in front of our kids dealing with our children every single day. Our public also shared that they had great trust in our Board of Education and the decisions that they've made. They had great trust in the administrative leadership, and they had great trust in the financial, how we use our financial resources within the school district. The gentleman, Todd Rapp, who kind of spearheaded this for us through Rapp Strategies, said that the results of these surveys were higher in the school district of Brainerd than any survey that he had ever seen. And that is something that we are incredibly proud of as we move forward down this road to developing this plan. Not something we're going to hang our coat on, but something that we're proud of and that we want to continue to build on because we believe that in our hearts, but it was so overwhelmingly exciting to see that our community was supportive of our school as well. Some of the other things that we've done to get to this point, over the course of the last year, we've had over 150 different listening sessions where we were able to get information from the public. We looked at the 12 the schools within our school district, studied each of them in greater detail, and held meetings in each of those buildings. We also had 8 guiding objectives that led us to, that we always put at the forefront of our decision making. And I'll just highlight those for you. But safety and security was the #1 objective of every one of our buildings that we had. We wanted to make sure that we were having the same amount of that we were addressing the issue and having standards throughout all of our buildings. We also wanted to ensure that we were meeting some of those deferred maintenance costs that had been looked at during that first study when we looked at that we were addressing the mechanical efficiencies, the educational adequacy, and the needs. We also wanted to continue with the 4 A's, making sure that we had robust programs like the foundation overwhelmingly talks about, that we had strong programs in the academics, the arts, the activities, and the athletics. Our business community has shared with us through these 150 meetings that they really believed that they wanted to see a strong interest in career and technical education and partnerships to develop the workforce of the future. And that was one of the goals that our board felt was most necessary as they moved this project forward. And finally, they wanted to make sure that our children had the technology integration that was needed so that they could be competitive in a very global society as our district mission states. So we took this through a 6-phase planning process, and right now we're getting to the end of the 5th phase, which is coming to an election on April 10th. And we're going to tell you what the plan is tonight, after all of this research, what that plan is that we hope to complete the 5th phase of our 6-phase process. So, in December, we brought forward to the board what we believed was the correct and the best plan to move forward. And with a lot of leadership from our board, 8 and 9 hour strategy sessions and so on. We are really excited to say that tonight we're going to talk about our plan, which encompasses 3 questions. The first question is going to address the 6 elementary schools in our building and all of our early childhood programming that we have within our school district. Question 2 is going to address all of our secondary education schools and our alternative education programming within the district. In question 2, when we're talking about the high school, one of the things that you're going to see as a piece of that project tonight is that we're looking at adding an auditorium to the high school. But through our many task forces, through our many meetings that we've had, another thing that we're hearing from our public is that they would like to see a performing arts center within the Brainerd School District. And so that leads us to the third question that we're going to talk about tonight, expanding that auditorium to encompass a performing arts center for a regional performing arts center that would be hosted within our school district. So with that being said, I want to welcome each of you here, and I'm excited to have Aaron come up to the microphone now, and he's going to take you through each of the questions. And then Todd's going to take you through the Lowell facility itself. So.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Lane said, I'm going to try to walk you through the plan and give you the highlights of what exists within each question, and also at the same time try to explain the 3 questions and how they interplay together. When we look at question 1 will be voted on as a standalone question, focused on our elementary schools and our early childhood facilities. One of the pieces as we went through the surveys and the community listening session results that became clear is the community felt very strongly about maintaining neighborhood schools. Keeping the schools locations where they're at and maintaining the neighborhood feel to them. And so that was a priority in our planning. We also felt the need that we needed to invest in all the buildings, not focus on one building here, one building there, and try to come back. But we're going to try to address the issues in all the buildings at once. Increase safety, security, and accessibility. One of the challenges that the majority of buildings in the Brainerd District has to do with security, and it simply is a function of the age of many of the buildings. For example, this building, when it was constructed in that time period, it was commonplace for the main offices to be located in the center of the building. Doors were usually wide open during the day so people could come and go throughout the day. When you look at schools now that are being constructed, for security purposes, the entrances and the main offices are located near the front of the building, where the majority of people are coming and going. And so this plan helps us to achieve that goal, as well as other pieces, addressing parking concerns, parent drop-off and pickup locations, as well as accessibility for all students throughout the buildings. We wanted to be able to enhance learning environments and technology integration, which is really updating a lot of our classrooms to give greater access for technology and flexible spaces. We also, and this is kind of tied back to preserving neighborhood schools, we wanted to try to, through the plan, minimize the impact any sort of boundary changes could have. Keep the neighborhood feel. People feel very strongly about their neighborhood schools. And with that, we're going to try to minimize any sort of boundary changes that might be talked about. We also wanted to limit new construction, which was a result of the surveys that the community felt strongly. We don't want to necessarily build a bunch of brand new buildings. We want to maintain the assets that we have in the district with our buildings and build it as little as possible across the district. And finally, just creating flexibility for the future. So what does that look like? As I just mentioned, building new schools. We're actually building one new building, which would be a new Baxter Elementary School. The location for that is still something that we're talking about. The school board has identified 2 priorities for a location, and they're both in close proximity to Forest View Middle School. The first option is basically right across the street from Forest View's main entrance, and it's some land that the city owns that we're exploring that possibility. A secondary option the location of it is basically on the current Forest View property where the school forest sits. So we're exploring both of those options in tandem as we look forward to this. Now, for Baxter Elementary, along the lines of we want to maintain the assets that we have. What we're going to do with the current Baxter Elementary building is it would be repurposed, and all early childhood, almost all early childhood programming would be centralized there. Early childhood would be CFE classes, school readiness preschool classes, located in that one building. Try to coordinate and bring those stats together within that location. Now, while I'm talking about early childhood, that's where, if you think about it as an early childhood hub, that's what would be going on at Baxter Elementary. We would also maintain early childhood and school readiness classes at 2 other locations. One being at the Washington building in Brainerd, so we have an early childhood presence in Brainerd, but also in Lowell Elementary, to make sure early childhood services are accessible to people in all the different communities really represented within our district. At our other elementary schools, there's essentially additions and remodeling going on. Different plans, different locations. We're going to have Principal Sauer come up here in a second and talk a little bit about Lowell. But each building will have kind of a similar plan to what Lowell has. Looking closely at the buildings, trying to figure out how can they function better for students, and what do we need to make that happen. We're not going to go into the depth of all of those because it becomes very, very complicated as we work through it. But feel free afterwards, if you're curious about a particular building or location, feel free to afterwards let me know, and we have diagrams for each building. The Washington building would also be updated. There's early childhood classes that would remain there, and one of the challenges of that building is that there's so many different programs going on. We have to figure out a way how to control access to the building. We have students there for early childhood education. That is also the location for our before and after school care. Locations where kids might go if they can't go home after school, they'll come there. We have to figure out how we can partition that building off in a way to maintain the different programs that all exist there. That in very broad brushstrokes is really what exists within question number 1. I'd like Todd to come up and just talk a little specifically about Lowell and what the changes would be within our building.
All right, thanks, Ed. This is the part that really excites me as we start looking at specifically how is it going to affect Lowell School, as well as all the kids in our district. The neat thing about the plan itself is it's bigger than just adding space. I think when people start talking about bond referendums, they think, okay, we're going to add space, great, but how does that affect instruction? And we've spent, and I say we because many of my staff are sitting back in the corner. I don't know why you guys are in the corner. Maybe they're in trouble, I don't know. But we have spent considerable amount of time looking at how do we want to change instruction. Because yes, space is an issue as you walk through our building, but we want to make sure as we take advantage of adding this space that we are moving into the next century of learning and teaching kids how to learn. And so, yes, when you look at our space, the first thing you see is safe and secure entrance. So if you can see up by the front of the building, which is the south end, which is the side closest to me, you'll see some kind of black and white dots. That would be all new addition. And in that new addition, there's a green area. That would be our multi-purpose room. So a multi-purpose room that would be our new cafeteria, as well as the kitchen, which would be to the west of that, which would be straight down that white area. So all of our kitchen staff and materials and food would all be delivered right off of the road to that spot. Instead, currently we have it brought in, the truck backs up on the sidewalk, we have to bring it in, take it down elevators, take it through hallways. Just much more streamlined and safer for our kids. As you move to the red area, that would be more office space. That would be, again, that safe and secure entrance that allows a staff person to check everyone who comes into our building. Currently, we have our main entrance that's open, that we have cameras, but we don't have a system of checking people in. That would really tighten that area up. The other big change for Lowell would be, you can see the light blue areas. The light blue area to the, basically to the north is current building that we have. as well as that light blue area that's to the east. Those will turn into what we call learning studios. To add space to each of our individual classrooms is basically an impossibility because we would have to add like 10 feet onto every classroom. By doing these learning studios, so we're looking at creating larger spaces and getting more collaboration with teachers in those spaces to create learning environments for kids instead of duplicating them all at individual rooms. And so those are the planning things that we've done in some of those larger spaces to gain more space. But those are really the main changes that you will see at Lowell. The other extensions we're looking at is to really ignite passion in children, so that to build off excitement in the arts, the STEM areas with science, technology, engineering, and math opportunities, the arts, really looking at what will motivate students to not only come in for their main learning, their core curricular areas, but how can we get them excited about the other learning opportunities. So those are really the changes that we have coming for Lowell.
Any questions for Todd at this point? When you go through and you think of all the work that we talked about doing at all multiple buildings, we shared this slide to be able to demonstrate to you this is the amount of work that needs to be done across our district at the elementary level. It amounts to $104 million. Keep that number in mind. Superintendent Larson will come up in a few minutes and talk through that number a little bit to be able to break down how is that going to be paid for? How are we going to address that? But keep that number in mind as we go forward. Let's jump to the second question. Now, the second question that will be on the ballot focuses on the secondary schools and alternative education facilities. The first and second question on the ballot are not contingent upon each other. They're standalone questions. When we get through what is in this question, you'll see a lot of the same themes. Safety, security, accessibility, preserving valuable location of Brainerd High School. It was very clear through the survey results and community listening sessions, people like the high school right where it is. It's a fantastic location. There would be a variety of updates to classrooms, multi-purpose spaces, collaboration spaces. There would be a gymnasium station, a swimming pool that would be added on, or actually not added onto, would be built, as well as a 950-seat auditorium on the North Campus. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit at this point. The auditorium space, it's interesting because it's not just an additional space. It is actually a function when we talked about security and safety for kids, came out of a conversation around that. Because one of the challenges that we see with our students, for example, if there's a band concert upcoming, that band concert will happen at the Washington building. And so as the students prepare for that concert, during their school day, they're grabbing instruments, walking 3 blocks, just to be able to practice during that hour and come back. When you really look at it, it is a safety issue. The kids should not be having to do that during the day. So the function of the auditorium, as we've looked at it, we do view it as a safety issue, but it also opens the door to a community our size and a school our size should be able to have that sort of asset attached to the building. Another real significant point of this part of the high school plan has to do with career and technical education. There's a real investment back into industrial technology, family and consumer sciences, classes, as many of you could recall them, to really get back to kids today, try to prepare them for college and career readiness. And for some kids, college is the track, and for other kids, trades may be the track. And in our community, there's a worker shortage in a lot of industries. And our business community has expressed in listening sessions that they would like the school district to be able to help remedy that. And so this part of the plan is hopefully to really partner with that business community and see if we can start bringing some of those classes to the forefront and develop those for our students as they enter the workplace. Similar to the elementary plan, we're going to increase our technology integration. We're also going to add capacity for enhanced special education programming. Special education programming is really unique because the majority of our buildings were constructed. Special education services were not existent in the form that they are now. And so for many of those services, we're kind of retrofitting them into spaces. We're trying to make spaces fit the program versus designing a space for the program, which will be a great benefit for our students. Also improving parking availability. One of the challenges at our high school really has to do with parking. When there's a large-scale event going on, it's difficult for people to find parking that is safe for them to get to and from events. And so one of the pieces, and I believe there's a diagram we'll look at, we'll be able to illustrate, we're going to create a solution for parking to allow people to get to and from events in a much safer fashion. So, what does this look like? Really imagine the high school. There's going to be an addition to the North Campus. And with that addition, we're going to be able to bring all 9th through 12th grade students within the North Campus. South Campus would have a different purpose. That purpose would be to take the current services at Lincoln Education Center, which is our level 4 EBD program. They would be brought over to the South Campus. So we would be reutilizing that space in a different way. The Brainerd Learning Center facility would also be enhanced. That building, which currently houses some early childhood classes, those classes would end up being in a different location. Therefore, we're able to utilize that space in a different way and be able to expand that program at that location. At Forest View, which to be honest, is a beautiful building that functions incredibly well. The investment that this community made in that building and the way it functions has been incredible. There's probably 2 things we need to fix about it at this point. One being the parent pickup and drop-off locations to make that function better. The second, just to address the safety and security. It's the accessibility piece of that front door. The opposite location is already in place. We just have to reconfigure what that entrance may look like. And the final point up here is the current Lincoln building would be deconstructed. And all these services in that current building would be placed at South Campus. So that building would be deconstructed, and actually, in the upper right of this picture, you see a red dotted outline. That would be the current Lincoln building. That space would essentially then turn into parking. So if you imagine the existing high school, imagine walking out the front doors with there being parking directly in front of you. Having that sort of accessibility. It would allow the public for events as well as students to really become much closer to the building entrance for events. Just to give you kind of a brief overview of what you are looking at here. Once again, these drawings are just kind of conceptual in nature. The teal square near the top of the picture would be the location of a potential auditorium. The blue squares toward the bottom, that is physical education spaces. The ones that are outlined in kind of the white dotted lines, that would be an additional gym space as well as the new swimming pool. The areas in pink, those really are the career and technical education facilities that would be upgraded and really pushed to the forefront of a lot of the services we provide. Now, as we think about question 2, this amount accumulates to $93 million. $104 million for question 1, 94 for question 2. Now, there's a third question, and to explain what this is, question 3 is basically, think about it, it's an upgrade to the auditorium. It's enhancing it so that it could be used as a performing arts center, adding additional seating so we can have 1,200 seats. Enhancing adding an orchestra to it, enlarging the stage, additional lighting, acoustics. So basically, we could hold larger functions within that facility, and it would be attached to the high school. It would serve multiple purposes for the entire community. Now, I want to explain a little bit about this question. Question 3 is contingent upon the passing of question 2. Question 1 is a standalone question. Question 2 is a standalone question. But in order for question 3 to pass, question 2 would pass. Now, when it comes to question 3, it's $8 million. Now, in question 2, the money is in question 2 for the way I explain it, a traditional high school auditorium is in question 2. The money in question 3 would be in addition to that, which converts it then to the larger performing arts. The next piece, and this is I'm sure where everyone's minds are going, okay, so we've seen these numbers of what the cost is of all of these projects. Superintendent Larson is now going to walk us through how do we pay this? What are the funding strategies we can do to try to make this as affordable as possible for the taxpayer?
Thank you, Aaron and Todd. Are there any questions about the three questions that Aaron just talked you through a little bit, with the elementary being number 1, secondary the second one, and then the performing arts? Are there any questions before we move on to the finances?
We have questions pertaining to Lowell in particular.
Sure.
So with the offices now changing to this side, are you guys continuing to have buses go on this road, or have you addressed maybe having it rerouted?
That would be something we would definitely look at. Some of those types of details, I think, will be definitely looked at. We've talked about using the east road, which is, what is that? 4th Avenue, possibly as bus pickup. And then the parent drop-off or current parent drop-off is in the front. How that would be rearranged with our main entrance now being on the south end. So those will definitely be things we would look at.
Just because I know that drop-off is very, it's difficult in the morning, and then I've almost seen kids get hit in the morning, my car just gets hit, I almost have hit, so I just want to make sure we're addressing that as well. We're looking at some sort of rearrangement, so.
Yep, definitely.
That is certainly part of this plan. The drop-off and pickup and the bus transportation piece is something we're looking at every one of our buildings, because we know that really is a safety and security issue, particularly in some of our neighborhood schools where there's roads all the way around the city block where the school building itself is. And you're absolutely right, we need to ensure safety and security. Yeah, great question. Any other questions about the plan? Okay, so let's take you into the next portion of this, which is the financing. As you saw just a little bit ago, Aaron talked you through the financial piece, and when you add up all 3 of those numbers from questions 1, 2, and 3, we know that we get a really immense number, $205 million. And I think every one of us looks at that and thinks, oh my goodness, there's just no way to address this. And so what I want to do tonight is I want to talk you through how we believe the best way of looking at this issue is as we move forward. And one of the things that I thought was kind of fun is if we can look at that $205 million as it's a great big barrel full of water. And that barrel is $205 million in that barrel. What are the funding sources that we can use to address that $205 million? Well, one of the things the board has said from the very beginning is we need to take a look at how we manage our money that we have right now, and how can we address some of these issues right with some of the funding sources that we have currently, so that we don't have to raise taxes for this entire project. So the top buckets that we're going to talk about tonight are funding sources that we have right now. Our long-term facility maintenance money. 2-3 years ago, the legislature did a really awesome job when they put a number of our capital funds into long-term facility money and made us look at our buildings for 10 years and how we were going to address some of the maintenance and the deferred maintenance needs that we would have in our buildings. And so through the leadership of Earl Wallet, our building and grounds director, we were able to take a look at our long-term facility funds and how much of that would we be able to use and put towards this project if we were able to pass these 3 questions. And as you can tell by that bucket itself, right around the half of it, or just a little bit more than that, we believe that we can designate to this project over the course of these funds. And we have to update this plan every single year, and it's a long-range 10-year plan. And we believe that a little over half of that money we can designate to these questions. The operating capital, we feel that about a third of the funds that we get right now, that we can take those funds and use them towards this project. Our efficiency fund, our community partnerships money that we receive, our existing authorities that we have that would not give any increased tax impact to our constituents. There's also something up there that says NMTC, which stands for New Market Tax Credit. New Market Tax Credit is a federal funding source that we do not currently have, and we actually weren't even sure if it was going to be here at the end of the year last year, if the possibility that you could see if you were eligible. But right now it's still in there, and in the future we're going to look to see if any of these projects could possibly fit into that and if we would be eligible for it. We don't have it right now, but we're not going to stop looking for different funding sources that would be there to help us with these concerns. The second row of buckets, and I'll take you through each of these a little bit more detailed in a little bit, is the existing authority that the Board of Education has to make improvements within our school district. These authorities do have a tax impact, an additional tax impact, if the school board decides to use them. Some of them are alternative facility bonding, looking at some of our HVAC systems and the heating and cooling systems within our buildings. Abatement funds, looking at funds that are available through our local levy, which can address some of our parking lot and our drop-off pickups that we talked about a little bit ago, our sidewalks. Those kinds of things can be funded through there. And our lease levy authority, which the board has used in the past on projects. I believe Lowell was actually a lease levy authority for a period of time that was used in order to increase some of the accessibility for special education and some of the updates that we did here a few years ago. And so there are those authorities which the board would look at. And then the piece that we'll be talking about a little bit more is the voter approved authority, which we know would have a direct tax impact. And we refer to these as the building bonds. So what I want to do now is I want to take you through each of these levels to show you how much of each of these we think that we can use to address this $205 million that we've been talking about. So at the beginning, when we're looking at our funding solution, we see $104 million in question 1, $93 million in question 2, an additional $8 million if question 3 passes, for a total of $205 million, which fills our barrel. So if we take the next funding streams, the existing funding that we have, those that would not have an additional tax impact to our constituents, in question 1, we believe that out of our existing authorities, we can find $18.3 million to help address some of the needs that we have in our elementary sites and with our early childhood programming. In question 2, our secondary education piece and our alternative education, we believe that we can find $9.15 million in our existing authority to address some of those needs. So just about $30 million of this $205 million, we believe that we can address right within the funding sources that we have currently. Are there any questions about that before I move on to the next row? Okay. Then, if we went to the second row that we talked about with the alternative facility bonding, the abatement bonding, and the lease levy authority, these are school board authorities that exist where they can make the decisions through the levy process to do additional projects which would be an increase in taxes. When we look at these 3 buckets, we believe that in the elementary school that we can address about $17.3 million worth of those projects by using the existing school board authority. and $14.5 million at the secondary, at the high school, middle school, and our alternative education. For about $32 million can be addressed in this way. So what that brings us to is about $145 million that we're trying to figure out how are we going to address that and how can we take a look at that. And so what we've been looking at is to talk to our local taxpayers and to address this through the voter-approved authority, through a bond referendum. So that's where, when Aaron took you through and we started with question 1, that it started at $104 million. When we go to the ballots on April 10th, question 1, you're going to see that we're asking our community to support $68.36 million to improve our elementary schools and our early childhood education. In question 2, the secondary piece, it started at $93 million, but with the 2 authorities that we've talked about, we will be asking our local community to support nearly $70 million to update our secondary schools, our high school, our Lincoln Education Center, our alternative learning centers, and so on. And you'll notice over here in question 3 that we really did not believe that we have any current existing authority to help address any of that $8 million, nor do we feel that we have that authority through the school board levy authority. And so the entire $8 million would be voter approved to see if the community supported that as an add-on to question 2, the secondary education piece. And that's where we address that $145 million that we're talking about. Now that number still looks like a really large number to address 12 buildings that we have in our school district. But one of the things that we've done in this process is we've taken a look at the market values in our school district, and we have about a $5.3 billion market value within our community. When we spread the tax impact out between our residential homes, our businesses, our seasonal recreation, and so on, and use the formulas that the state has set, when we put together the existing board authority and the voter-approved piece, question 1 on a median home that is a median price is $156,200. Looking at those 2 sets of buckets, I like to say, there would be a $3 increase on our taxes per month to address question 1. If we look at question 2, the secondary education and the alternative education, addressing the school board authority and the voter-approved piece to address all of the issues that were talked about in the secondary piece, it would be an additional $3 per month on a median home value of $156,200. And if our community decides, yes, I think we really need to update that auditorium to be a performing arts center, to bring in some semi-professional groups, to have more orchestra opportunities, to enhance some of the dance, and just the performing arts in general, it would be an additional $1 per month on a median home of $156,200. So for an increase of $7 per month, we feel that we have a really great solution for addressing $205 million in project within our school district. Are there any questions about this? Yeah.
So the online tax calculator is available.
Yes.
When you put in your estimated market value, the online calculator, does that also take into consideration the existing board authority and the voter authority, the same as this bottom level line?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I was just trying to think when I did it, when I went in on the calculator, and yes, it did. Yep. Great question. Yep.
Question 1 or 2 are 8.5 times what question 3 is.
Yep.
How is the monthly impact $1 versus $3?
Well, part of the fact is that we aren't using any existing funding and there's no school board authority. And it has to do with how the funding sources, there's all these different formulas that are used by the state for school district funding on bond referendums. And when you take the formulas that were there and you run it through this, through all the formulas, it ended up that $8 million would be an extra dollar.
But I mean, like, the voter approved authority, 68 months.
Yep.
They're over 8 times.
Right.
Is it spread out over a number of years?
No, this is spread out, the whole thing is spread out over 25 years. And there are pieces like now when Forest View goes off and then we'll be increasing to, do you have that slide?
You see that?
On the feathered one. Can you do that?
It's down there.
Sorry about this, there's all kinds of slides to pop in.
This one.
Okay, so this kind of shows what we're looking at. Currently, the red right now is the Forest View property taxes that will be going off, I think it's within the next 5 years or so. And what we are looking at in this formula is to transition that and make it last a little bit longer, and then we add in some of the other authorities. So the existing debt and the existing leases, then we have any proposed leases, any bonds, our proposed new abatement bonding that's in here, and then the voter approved is the green. And what we're looking at with that $7 per month is that we would slowly add that on after the referendum, and that would maintain for 25 years. But it really has to do with the different formulas that we use. Like there's different formulas that residential homes have and different values of residential has. The same thing happens with our commercial and our seasonal recreation and all kinds of different sources that are there from the state.
I will also mention the tax impact. We referenced that roughly $150,000 home number. The tax impact, it's not as simple as just saying maybe your home's worth more than that. Okay, if I double that number, it'll be that amount. The tax impact varies because the tax rate varies based off the amount the home is worth. And so there's a tax calculator, and we'll show you the link to that. Really encourage you to look at that because it isn't, think about it like a sliding scale almost. So you really need to look at your individual property and also the tax rate. The tax rate is different for different price homes as well as agricultural properties as well as commercial properties.
Could you go to the next one then? As Aaron just said, you're absolutely right that even if you double like the price of a house, it doesn't necessarily mean that the tax impact's going to be double because it has to do with the different formulas. If you go to Blueprint 181 though, and I need to give lots of kudos to Corey and to Carla Sand back here and Corey Reynolds who have been working with our communication within the school district. And since we've been working on this project the last year, they have developed a website called Blueprint 181. On that website, every single document that we have developed from the start of this project, and it updates every day, is on there to help answer questions on that website. One of the things that they just added in January is that tax calculator. So you can go on to that website and it'll say, calculate your taxes, and you can take your tax statement that you receive, find out the value of your particular business or home, and punch that number in, and it'll automatically show you what the impact would be for your, let's call it a residential home, your residential home for question 1, for question 2, and question 3, and then the sum of the 3. And so, yeah, it takes those different formulas and it will take each individual situation into effect in that calculator.
Also encourage you, I like to actually talk to someone live once in a while. If you call that phone number, you'll actually get a return call or talk to someone live, and they'll be able to calculate the amounts for you. So if you're not interested in the website, there's another alternative for you as well, where you can talk with someone, especially maybe if you have multiple properties. They can walk you through what that looks like.
Also, just a little bit about the election, and the fourth part of our presentation tonight is just to tell you a little bit about the timeline that we have. First of all, as you know, in the legislature last year, they made some changes to bond referendum elections this year. This is the first year where there are 5 dates that you can hold a bond referendum election. The second Tuesday in February, the second Tuesday in April, second Tuesday in May, the primary election in August, and the general election in November. And so we chose this April date because we really felt that we had the plan ready at this time, and it would give us another season to get some of our projects going this summer if we are fortunate to have the election approved. Also, in the legislation that was passed this past year, one of the things that I really think is an awesome change is the fact that people can vote for 45 days prior to the actual election itself. We have selected April 10th as our election date for our school district election. But starting on February 23rd, anyone who would like to start to vote early can go to the courthouse and vote early. Or if you're going to be gone and you want to have absentee ballots sent to you, they can go to the courthouse or call the courthouse and say, please send me a ballot, an absentee ballot. And on February 23rd, all of those absentee ballots will be sent to the address that is given, and they can be sent back prior to April 10th, encouraging everybody to come out and vote and to give us a real direction for where to lead the school district in the future. So, early voting then opens on February 23rd, 2018. The absentee ballots are available in the county auditor's office, and we have the telephone number there too, where you can call to talk about getting absentee ballots. The election day itself is Tuesday, April 10th, 2018. And if you have any questions about where to vote on April 10th, we have the combined polling places listed on that blueprint181.org website that I talked about a little bit ago. So any piece of information or any frequently asked question that you might be curious about, please go to that website because it's just loaded with really good information to help answer the questions that people have regarding the referendum.
We also have that information, the office here has that information, so feel free to call the school. They can provide that to you as well.
Yep. So what we wanted to do tonight, because a lot of times when you look at the charts that say question 1 and it takes all the numbers and then it gives you the $3 and so on, when you go to the ballot boxes, it doesn't look the same. And so what I wanted to do tonight is just take a moment just to share with you what the questions are, and when you do go to the ballots, whether it's April 10th or from February 23rd on, question 1 will read just like this. If you notice, it says up here that the obligation to school district bonds in an amount not to exceed $68,360,000. That's that number that we talked about in that third row of buckets and regarding question 1. It's the voter approved piece. Then what it does is it defines all of the different things that we're looking at for doing between the 6 elementary buildings that we've talked about, some of the safety and security improvements, the traffic flow, and etc. But oftentimes you get to the ballot box and there's this huge paragraph. But what we need to do is to make sure that when people go to the ballot box, that they read through this and they know exactly what they are voting for. And so even though it looks really extensive, we like to think that it's a really nice consolidated list of the improvements that we're looking at all of our elementary schools in question 1. Are there any questions about question 1? Okay, question 2, you'll see it's really similar. It does the same thing. It's got the amount not to exceed $69,350,000 with what the updates are, what the changes, the improvements are that we're looking at for question 2 in our secondary education and alternative education programming. And question 3 is a little bit shorter, but it talks about the general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $8 million for the Performing Arts Center to be attached to Brainerd High School. Are there any questions?
You know the current seat capacity?
Yeah, the current seat capacity right now is, I want to say about 925 seats currently. And so the auditorium that we're proposing in Brainerd High School would be 950 seats, and what we like to believe is that we could bring 2 classes in there if we needed to, that it would still provide the kids when they're practicing and all those kinds of things, that they would be right on site for practicing and for the actual concerts or whatever it is that they're putting on. So it's about the same size as what we see with Tornstrom. One thing that I should share, because a lot of people ask, well, what's going to happen to Tornstrom? Tornstrom is used all the time. And one of the things that we firmly believe through our task forces and our work groups that we've had in this process is that we're going to keep Tornstrom very, very busy, as well as any new auditorium that would be built at the high school. And so we're really excited about the opportunities that will be available. And also, I want to say, in collaboration with the college as well, because they have a lovely performing arts center that meets the needs of different kinds of activities that a larger type of facility wouldn't be able to meet the needs the way the college does. So we're really excited about the partnership with Lakes Area Music Festival and everybody. It's really been fun to bring everybody to the table to have these conversations. Any other questions? One thing that I'd like to add is that I think one of the neat pieces about the question 3, along with question 1, question 2, and question 3, is that I think as a superintendent that I get the most excited about is that I really feel and believe that the Board of Education has approved a plan that's going to try to meet all, as best we possibly can, the needs of all of our schools, meet the needs that our children have in this really global society that we have, and as education changes, to address and the flexibility needs that we have, and that there's something in it for every building to help to enhance some of these lovely facilities that we have that just need to be loved a little bit and taken care of. The other thing that I think that's really neat about this plan is that I really believe that it creates that culture that we're looking for in every one of our buildings, where people believe that these schools are our community schools. And I always say this, but I am a family and consumer science teacher. That's what I've done. I've worked in career and technical education most of my life, but we love to create an environment that when people come to our school, that they don't want to go home, that they feel welcome, that they see themselves, that there are activities and things being offered every day, that they want to come to the school and be there and participate in those activities. And that's really what the board was trying to get at with the goals that they selected in the beginning. And I'm just really proud of the work that they've done to put this plan together, because I really believe that it enhances a community partnership that's focused on education, and where there's something in it where everybody can feel that they belong and this is their school home. And I don't know, that's just a really exciting piece for me as the superintendent of this. And we are open for lots of questions if you have them. Yes, Tiffany.
So what will be the timeline for construction? At all tasks, when was the first groundbreaking and that, and this is a lot of work. How long will it last?
Great question. I should have said that, in fact. If all 3 questions pass in April, or even if one question passes in April, but let's say that all 3 of them do. Our plan right now is that we would do a few projects in the first summer while we're designing. I see our architects back here because I know that there's a lot of designing that has to take place and such, but we're looking at a 4-year building project to address each of the schools. And right now we have a very tentative outline of what it looks like if all 3 questions pass, but we know that we can get it done in 4 years from the time it passes. And so we're excited about that. It would be done in phases because there's just some things that you can get done in the summer and there's some things you can get done during the school year, but you have to be really careful. But we have awesome consultants with Woodseth, Smith Knowlton, ICS, Cross Anderson, everybody helping to make this a reality. And we're really excited. 4 years. Any other questions? Yeah.
I understand we are going from the 104 million to the 68, 69. I understand 93 to the 68, 69. The part that confuses me a little bit is when we're looking at the $3, $3, $1.
Yes.
Now let's just make it easier math and say 66 million. Let's just make those 2 bigger numbers, suppose 66. So $3 gets you 66. Wouldn't $1 being a third get you 22 million instead of 8?
Yeah, the formulas just don't work that way. It's all about how the formulas work, and we've gone through everything. And we've had Steve Lund work with Ellers, who's our financial consultant, and they have punched the numbers overwhelmingly. But when you're looking at that number and how funds can be used and so on, it comes right out to $1. Yeah. And some of those formulas are much greater than, anything that I could do when Ellers is putting together their calculators and such to figure that out. But they are really, really good and sharp at this, and that's where they believe that we're at. Any other questions? Yeah, Kim.
I don't have a question, I have more of a comment. Lee and her team has put together all this information, and it's great information for us. But the one thing she can't do is she can't, as a public figure, she can't ask for your yes vote. There is a yes vote committee that is being formed. I am on that committee. For those of you that don't know, my family is from the area. My husband graduated from BHS and had 2 graduates from BHS. And we are really excited for what this will do to our communities and for our attraction to the downtown with employers, attracting employees and employers. So we'd love to have your yes, yes, yes vote. And we'd love to have you involved if you want to. We've got a great team of folks who are out and about at meetings like this to sell that story and to ask for your yes, yes, yes vote. So although they can't, we can, and you will hear more from us throughout this process.
That's true. True, true. Thank you, Kim. Any other? Yeah.
Can you talk about the strategy around question 3? Why is it a separate question on question 3? It seems like if the feeling is that it was important in some of the surveying that we build a performing arts center, and you're talking about spending over $200 million, and then you have a question 3 that is $8 million. It just seems odd to me that there would be a question 3 and that's not rolled into question 2. Because if you decide 5 years down the road that you need what you have in question 3 is going to be about twice as much to now go ahead and add. And a project that big seems.
Yeah. I'd be happy to address that. In questions 1 and 2, as I shared, for 3.5 years, the district has been doing just an incredible amount of research on what the strengths of our buildings are and what the needs are to meet the 8 objectives that we addressed right at the beginning of our project. And when we came forward to the Board of Education with the dollars, clearly there could be a lot more things. If you were doing the must-dos, should-dos, and the things that you would like to do's, there aren't very many like to do's on here, because what the board asked is, what are the things that we need to do? What are the things, if we're going to be asking for our community to help us to take care of 12 buildings in this district, and we know that several of our buildings have a high age number on them. What are the things that we have to do to provide the highest possibility for academic achievement and for our kids to be successful in the future? We really believe in question 1 and 2 that it meets the needs that we have to provide well-rounded programming in our school district. We really believe in question 2 that we shouldn't have our kids walking across 5th Street, across 6th Street or Old 371, carrying their instruments to practice, going back and forth, that it truly is a safety issue. And when we talked about the auditorium, what is it that we need at Brainerd High School right now to do the programming that we have, to meet the objectives that we have? We felt that we needed to have a 950-seat auditorium where our classes could go in there and perform. They could have do all the things that we do in schools. That's what we really felt that we needed. But one of the things that we didn't talk about is that in that little roadmap thing that I did at the very beginning, we also had 7 different task forces going on. We had funding, we had communications, career and technical education, technology, performing arts was one of them. I missed a couple here just thinking off my head, but one of them was performing arts. And we had several people to the table many times to talk about the needs of performing arts in our region. So many community people were there. And at that meeting, people really wanted us to have a performing arts center that was bigger, that had the orchestra pit, that you could have dancing things going on the stage, that the stage was bigger and so on. But we really felt that that went above and beyond what we felt the must-do items were for our current programming. And so we felt that it was fair to give the community the opportunity to say, okay, if you want us to go bigger, if you want us to partner and to make this a performing arts center for our region, then we need to know that we have that commitment, that people want us to do that extra work and to make it that larger size and also to attach it to our school. Because there have been some conversations in the past about if we do performing arts, where should it be? And we wanted to be able to hear from the community that we knew that we were doing exactly what it was that they would hear. So questions 1 and 2 are what we believe are the must-do items to provide the highest quality education possible. Question 3 is something as a community that we feel that is really a must-do item, but we want to give the community the opportunity to vote on it. So. Anything else? This has just been a pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We are so excited, and it's fun for all of us because, you know, our careers have been in education, and so we are so passionate about providing the highest quality education for our children and educational opportunities for our community. And I just, you know, I look around this room tonight, and I have seen several of you at many of these meetings. And thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being here at all the meetings and for the support that you've given us. And thank you for loving our kids because this community supports their school so beautifully. And I don't have better words than to just say thank you for all you do to make our school the great school that it is. So thanks for being here tonight.